Good morning. My name is Mark Diener. I'm the Chief Advisor for Open Government for the Government of Alberta. Today I'm here to talk about open government and to ask you to share your thoughts on what open government might mean for your organization. I want to inspire and offer food for thought about the impact of open government and where we are headed. I'm hoping that by the end of the session we have given you a taste for open government and that you will share that inspiration as you head back home. My daughter, who is in grade 6, studied democracy and social studies. She explored how democratic principles and ideals are reflected in the structure and functions of their local and provincial governments. She examined how these impact citizen participation and influence. She looked at the history of Athens and the Iroquois Confederacy as models. As I watched her learn and complete her assignments, it made me think about the enormity of open government and the transformation potential. And I realized that the word transformation, a word frequently used by those who champion open government, is not a word that is used lightly. So as our ancestors experimented with democratic structures, direct democracy in Athens, consensus models as the Iroquois, or as we have today the Westminster system based on representative democracy, that what all those systems have in common was that they were designed and created to fit within the physical constraints of information dissemination and communication. To address decision-making in Athens, male citizens would convene an assembly as chosen by lot. For consensus, the Iroquois would dispatch messengers to raise the attention of the Council of the League, and this would take time. For 2,000 years, information could only be transmitted in paper, later in person, and if you were a citizen that worked hard, your time was spent attending to basic needs. There was no ability to click and send and then get back to work. No matter the intent of that citizen to make a social difference and to influence policy, in fact, even if government encouraged that, the physical barriers in place ensured that opportunity to engage with government was only for the established and connected privileged few. Today, the roots of our government can be traced back to all of these political systems. As part of the public service, we find ourselves faced with the challenge of dealing with the organizational designed barriers based on past physical, communication, and decision-making systems. These systems were not designed to keep pace with the rapid evolution of technology that has occurred in the last 65 years. So what if we could redesign government with structures that complement modern communication and information transmission? Structures that complement the internet, in fact. In Alberta, as with democracies around the world, we have begun this journey to adapt to the change in our society. Our journey will explore and suggest changes to policy, changes to internal support structures, and changes to systems of information dissemination and engagement. Changes that support a march toward open government. Albertans have long supported and been leaders in democratic and open movements. Early examples include the famous Five, who campaigned to include women as persons in the British North America Act. And there is also the example of opening up Alberta's geological data as far back as the 1920s in order to provide a competitive advantage to Alberta-based companies as they explored our province for natural resources. Today, around the world, many governments are adopting open government practices, and this includes other jurisdictions in Canada. Alberta cannot rest on its past laurels. We must evolve. How government information is publicly communicated impacts the reputation of our provinces, and therefore our brand. Here in Alberta, as many of you know, we seek to gain international market access for our products and services. The information we create and communicate becomes source material through which our brand is developed, from information that describes the environment, spending information, and compliance data, the world is watching Canada and Alberta and trying to better understand us and decide its level of trust. Without proper information, the brand becomes for others to mold and manipulate. I believe that open government, open data, and open information becomes the antidote to this. You cannot manage or change what is not measured. Any behavior, therefore, that the government seeks to change itself or influence change from its stakeholders can and must be better achieved through the release of information. The Open Government Program, as part of the Ministry of Service Alberta, seeks to address these challenges. Our mission is that we will create a stronger relationship between government and citizens. We will do this by being transparent and by listening to and openly engaging with Albertans, and by strengthening the collaborative culture at the Government of Alberta. We are committed to transforming the way the public service works, with the purpose of becoming more transparent and accountable to Albertans. We will do this by releasing more of the information we create, collect, and manage, improving the daily interactions we have with Albertans, and by encouraging and facilitating greater engagement of Albertans with us. The role that data and information plays is integral to the transformation of government. Information is the greatest resource of the 21st century. Today, governments are growing and managing larger amounts of information than we ever have before. Opening up access to this wealth of information so that politicians, public servants, and the general public can readily view, analyze, interpret, and reuse it has the potential to reduce costs, create enormous efficiencies, and boost productivity within and outside of government. Today, our citizens and our public service are comparing their experiences working with or working within government, not against the provinces next door, but against their online experiences. By engaging citizens differently and using information more intelligently, we can create services that are responsive and effective. Open government is about empowerment. Open government is about providing Albertans with access to the storehouses of data and information that the government creates. Open government is about empowering citizens and businesses to use and reuse the data and information for their own purposes. Open government is empowering public servants and citizens to work more effectively with one another. Open government is about enabling politicians to have greater visibility into the institutions and ministries they oversee. In June of 2013, the leaders of the G8 met in Ireland and created the G8 Open Data Charter. With this, Canada has made open government a priority in order to increase transparency and accountability. Alberta is following suit. We were inspired by the G8 Open Data Charter and have recently endorsed an open data and information policy that includes principles based on the G8 Open Data Charter. They are: Principle 1, increase accessibility of government information and data in a way that is responsive to citizens' needs and expectations. Principle 2, embed a culture of being open by default within the Alberta Public Service. Principle 3, publish quality government information and data to empower citizens and businesses to derive value from government information. Principle 4, leverage technology to enable efficient and timely access to quality information and data for an increasingly technologically enabled population. Principle 5, enable public participation in the development of government policies, programs, and services through the timely publication of quality information and data. And finally, Principle 6, utilize government data and information to identify opportunities to improve service delivery and efficiency in government. This policy means significant change in the way our government relates to Albertans. I'd like to now give you some Alberta examples of how we see this evolving. This example involves designing better information systems and being transparent about and responding to use of our land, water, and air resources with respect to resource extraction. In the past, decisions to grant permits for exploration, land development, drilling, agriculture, or recreation was not connected between all impacted departments. Engagement and collaboration required to make these decisions needs to be improved. We were unable to be transparent with information that described what was really happening with our environment. Ultimately, this affected the brand of Alberta. Take, for example, the oil sands project. If we do not provide easily consumable data and information, then this creates a vacuum for the journalists to be able to speculate and create hyperbole. Today we have a major project underway to strengthen the methods by which we collect data, ensure data quality, and most importantly, share the data as collected. This is called our Integrated Resource Management System project. This is a photo of last year's flood in southern Alberta. The second example has to do with the way we manage emergency situations such as disease outbreaks or floods by presenting near real-time data regarding reported outbreaks as we have recently experienced in Alberta. Flood data that records data, we record flood data that records data such as rising data levels. Both examples use open data as a resource that can feed citizen alert applications so that first citizens can respond much more quickly. A third example involves providing workplace safety data or facility inspection data, all of which offers Albertans critical information which can be used when deciding to take a job by looking at an employer's safety record or providing a senior with a snapshot of the state of a senior's home prior to relocating there. Open government can be used to solve wicked problems, or so the theory goes. To be honest, there is a lot of rhetoric and wildly optimistic forecasts regarding the value and impact of open data. But this is balanced with a great deal of skepticism and a lack of imagination and innovation. I believe the truth is always somewhere into the middle as to the impact of open data. We are only limited by our imagination, so let's dream. Let's hear your thoughts now. Consider your information-rich programs and services. Consider where you partner with citizens and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for your time.